Hi, everybody. It's Linda G and Andre. Astrology alert, one of you guys' favorite astrologers and mine too. And I told everybody when McAuliffe lost, I said, I guess Danny Bathrobe Psychic predicted he would lose. Mostly everybody said he would win, but the one person I was watching was you, and you were I honest to God thought the way you were reading that chart, you were going to say, yeah, sorry, you guys, McAuliffe isn't going to win because Youngkin's chart was a little better.
Right. Yeah. But in a way, I looked for a way to frame it, and it really wasn't a great case.
Right.
But most importantly, I think when you look at past performance, and you have to look at that, every single time a president has been elected, first-term president since Reagan, that Virginia goes to the other party every time.
Every time.
And New Jersey, both of them, not just Virginia, both of them. I mean, 2009, that's how Chris Christie got in there before he did the bridge thing, right?
That's right.
2009, after, Obama comes in, really inspiring and all that, then Chris Christie. So 1980, Ronald Reagan loses Virginia, keeps New Jersey. That's what Biden just did. So Biden's performance in that is stellar because no one else has done it. Okay. But if you look at the press, 5-alarm fire, disaster,
I know.
This means the midterms, this means all kinds of things. No, it doesn't. No, I mean.
We listened to McConnell too. Yeah, it looks like the Democrats are going to lose.
Right. Well, I mean, they have to say it in a way because politics is like that. It's a constant, messaging thing. But I think the thing is that from the cycles, I said this a number of times about Biden, because he's now, the latest poll, I don't know if you saw that, 38%, he's like in Trump territory when we used to look at Trump and say this guy's below 40. And I think the reason is that a lot of Democrats are frustrated with the way things have gone, right? But if you look at Biden's chart, he needs Jupiter to go into Pisces. It's that simple because he's a Scorpio. That happens at the end of the year, like in December 27th. And then there's a big swath in there in the new year with Jupiter and Pisces. That's completely different energy. It's much better energy. If you're a Scorpio with multiple planets in Scorpio, of course, you're going to like Jupiter and Pisces. That's how it's going to work. But why is he having problems? Because Saturn has been really, really active. Okay. Particularly in October, when a planet stations, which is what Saturn did, puts a lot of pressure on those same signs. Like Aquarius will challenge Scorpio, Taurus, Leo, and itself Aquarius. So politicians that get that very seldom do well. In fact, never, right? So that's explained. Right? Now, people have said to me, you should talk about this thing that, I don't know who it is, but some psychics or some readers, someone is saying that November is catastrophic. It's horrible because the eclipse is coming up later this month. The eclipse is basically a full moon. And it's a full moon that happens to be near where Biden's planets are. But that's not how I interpret it. Now, if that full moon were in October, maybe. But I see that as moving away from the October crunch that we had. There were multiple planets there stationed, so that makes it harder. So to me, if anything, that full moon could be very helpful to Biden, right? Okay. Even though people think, they're always saying eclipse, eclipse, eclipse. Sorry, I don't see it, right?
Okay, that's
good. And then the other thing that you could add, and you can see this, the planets will signal if you're watching the news and you put it together. So a couple of things. You remember that when Jupiter entered Pisces in May, that's when Biden said, the COVID is done. Now, it's a little premature, right. I agree. But I remember a couple of times being outside, no mask, because here in Seattle, everybody wears masks. They're very, very compliant.
Right.
But I was out there with no mask. And things went along pretty free until August, which was exactly when Jupiter went back into Aquarius, which is what you would expect. And then people were saying, oh my God, it's going to be at least next spring. I don't see it that way because Jupiter goes back into Pisces at the end of the year. And you notice what just happened. Pfizer announced a pill, something like 90% effective at curing it if you get it. That's a pretty big leap. So you start to see these things. So I think that will improve. pretty massively, when we get into the new year, probably before spring. And then the other thing that you heard, I don't know if you saw this, some people have already done some readings on this, I see, is this thing with Trump and the second grand jury was convened, right? And someone made, the case is, well, the first grand jury was convened and 5 weeks later, there was an indictment, right? So now it gets convened like last week or whatever, looks suspiciously like it's going to line up with Jupiter and Pisces, which for Trump isn't good because Trump was indicted when Jupiter was in that narrow band of Pisces, which is what you expect because that's what his chart says. Planets in Pisces are not favorable to Trump, right?
Oh, wow.
And in his case, it's even more complicated because in his case, Jupiter goes into Pisces and races out of Pisces in the middle of the year. Those degrees are even worse for him. So his 22 is not good at all, right? But people
Well, and you even said it gets worse in 23.
It does, because then Saturn goes into Pisces, right? And the last planet you want, if you've been ripping people off, attacking the government, doing this kind of thing, is Saturn. Saturn is the one that comes in and really hammers you. The other ones are in a way softening the ground for that, right? But the thing is, people get really impatient and they'll say, look, he's getting away with it. Of course, he was going to get away with it while he was in power. But in a way, he was creating more crimes to be charged with, right? And then, now he's out of power, what, 9 months, 10 months? Criminals that have committed murders, it takes longer to prosecute than 9 months.
Yeah.
It's totally unrealistic. People say, oh, they'll never.
You'll get away with executive privilege?
I doubt it. I doubt it a lot. I doubt it because what this guy's created, if you look at the political scene, people say, well, people are asleep. No, they're not. They're really watching. If you don't prosecute this now, good luck to Merrick Garland, right? It puts a lot of pressure on him because there's this attitude then that all you have to be is rich and crooked and you can do whatever you like.
Right.
Which usually, even just if you look a little bit more mystical or holistically, how can a social system allow this kind of garbage to go on? You destroy the whole system if you allow people to just, do whatever they like, set their own rules. That's Trump. Trump thinks that whatever I do is fine because I'm Donald Trump.
And then even if they pinpoint him, he'll say, oh, well, he did it on his own. I never. Yeah.
Yeah. But in the end, and the thing with a guy like him is that the only way that it works pretty much, especially because of the polarization we're in, you have to have actual evidence and papers. But he, like all criminals, in the end, he's not that smart. He's documenting and they've got double booking. And that's not a cool thing. People have to remember, go back to the 20th century. I always say this, Al Capone was put in jail for tax evasion. He was murdering people right and left.
Right.
They couldn't pin it on him. It was too hard because then you can get a lawyer.
From the beginning with Trump, I always thought it was money that was going to bring him down.
Yeah, which in a way is poetic justice because the man is, he worships money. If you take the money away,
off so many innocent people.
Yeah, exactly.
All those people he brought in from what country? Was it Poland? He brought a whole bunch of workers to work on.
Yeah.
Then he snubbed them. He didn't pay them.
He does this all the time. Exactly. And so the thing is, when it comes to the timing of things, a lot of times you have to wait. You have to be patient because you can't. And there's that thing with. This is the problem with money. If you have money, then you can use lawyers to delay and to, that's what he does. That's his thing. He spends, which his chart shows as well. But so many things in life work until they don't, you keep doing the same thing and, look around. Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein, people will say, oh, that thing never happens. Yeah, it does. We all saw it.
Yeah.
And a guy like this, if all that happens is he's neutered, I'm happy with that. Honestly, he's just a really bad influence as far as I'm concerned.
Very bad.
That's pretty much
and good people like him. And these people wouldn't rip off people like he does, but they don't seem to care.
Yeah, and I'm a little puzzled, because I don't know, when you say good people, what does that mean?
Well, some people there's people I know that I thought were good people, but if you like Trump, you got to be a hater too.
Yeah, because what's the logic? What do they tell you why?
Oh, this one girl said to me she was tired of Biden costing her so much money at sending out checks. And it was like, because she makes good money. And it was like Trump sent out checks too. I know, you know what I'm saying? But she's looking at Biden like he's awful.
It's a little strange because the Trump administration was basically the way they were funneling the checks was to the upper class. It's this idea that we're going to pass these laws, and then look at companies. A 15% tax cut. Who got a 15% tax cut? That's unheard of. It's part of the reason why the stock market is awash in money, right? Because
Right.
but then now Biden wants to do an FDR. He's saying no, the money should go to people that have less money, and he's saying if you make 400,000 or more, then you'll pay more taxes. Doesn't that sound logical?
That's what Clinton did.
Yeah, at a certain point, it's not like they tax all of it more. They tax you above 400,000, and
Right.
that seems, to me, it's inexplicable. The Joe Manchin thing, how he's saying, well, they shouldn't tax billionaires. Well, who are we going to tax?
Well, here's the thing, billionaires, it depends on what you're saying with taxing, because billionaires don't really cut a check. They're not being taxed on income earned because all their money is in separate things. So they just get money every once in a while, but they just keep getting richer.
Well, the thing is, how can they're always, if you notice with Republicans, they always try this, all of them, like Ted Cruz, the class, there should be a flat tax, because they know that if you say 15% of nothing is, or a person who makes very little, it really
It hurts
takes away a lot.
Yeah,
But a person who makes a lot, it's because they don't want to pay the 30 or 40 or 50%.
exactly.
America, people know this. It's in the history books. Look it up. In the most prosperous period in America, people were paying a marginal tax rate of 90% at the high end. In the 60s, families had often a car or two. They could go on vacation on one income, right? It was Reagan who took this whole thing apart by lowering taxes. And what it effectively did is it sent all the money to the rich. Now you have this horrible inequality, right?
Yeah,
Which
that's
is what
going to change.
That's what Biden is trying to do. But this is where, by the way, again, I remind people, you see it in cycles. And this to me is a very optimistic thing. If you see that Saturn in Aquarius, which it does every 30 years, goes through there, Aquarius and Pisces, which is where it's going through now, look back all the way to the Civil War. There were always progressive administrations who were doing progressive things, like FDR, John F. Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson, Clinton. Those are markers. That's astrology is like that. It cycles repeat, right?
Okay.
So that's another, to me, optimistic thing. My only fear is that if you go back to the Reconstruction period when there was, terrible problems with the Civil War, and then what happened is there were these really close elections. And that's when they cut deals to let the South off the hook, which is why it took so long. Even now they're taking down statues of people who lost the war. It's inconceivable. That they say, oh, we should keep up like Trump is going General Lee. He lost the war. What are you talking about? He's a loser like you. Why is there a statue for this guy, right?
Right.
But this was because deals were cut because elections were very close. So this is why, again, I keep telling Democrats, just vote. Did you see that Virginia thing? 825,000 people didn't show up. Where are those people? It's crazy. You think, it's almost irresponsible to think you were voting for Biden a year ago, and now almost 1 million of you stayed home. Now,
They didn't like McLaughlin. I'm telling you right now. He stood up there and told everybody, I don't think parents should have any say in what's taught in the schools.
Yeah, I know.
And that was a big no-no. But Youngkin, even though he won, why am I not worried about him?
Because if you look at he's like a more traditional Republican. So he is a lot less likely to do Trumpian things. That's basically why. And that's the way our system is. There are Republicans who believe in Republican policies, and they're not horrible. They're just, they do it a little differently. I wouldn't vote for them, but some totally scare me, like Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's like an escapee from a mental asylum. I'm sorry. The woman is nuts. You don't want her anywhere near Congress. You don't want her near anything, right? But some of them, what do you say? Even Liz Cheney, Liz Cheney and her family, they're just very to the right. It's not great. I wouldn't vote for that, but yeah, it wouldn't scare me because for one thing, they're, honest enough to say, we're going to count votes and whoever wins, wins. We're not going to sit here and say, oh, well, we'll just make it up, and pretend like someone else won. That's crazy. That's how you destroy democracy, So, but anyway, I'm more optimistic than most people. but my fear always is that Democrats find reasons, to hurt themselves.
Oh, I tell you, when the Republicans lose, they act like they're winning. When Democrats lose, they act like when the Democrats win, they act like they're losing.
Yeah,
Someone said that, and I said that is so true. But somebody on the news the night of the voting said tonight was a bad night for Trump because Youngkin's numbers exceeded Trump 1,000-fold.
Yeah, although with Trump, Trump will just make up something.
Oh, yeah.
He's got his Mercury square Neptune in his chart. It's like the classic, just total liar. The man lives in a lie. So he'll just say whatever. But here's another thing about Trump too, is that at the moment, he's got some Jupiter protection, right? But then I think to myself, if this is it, it reminds me of like when Muhammad Ali was fighting George Foreman and Foreman kept punching him. And Foreman said that at one point, Muhammad Ali said to him, "Is that all you got, George?" And then he knocked him out. And so, to me, I think, really, this is it. This is what you're going to get on your Jupiter trine. You're hurting, man, because wait till that planet leaves. The case that illustrates this is back in the 70s, astrologers, Rob Hand, he's a long-term astrologer. In a book that he wrote in the 70s, he said Nixon lasted longer than he would have because of Jupiter. Jupiter was there for a while protecting him. And then when Jupiter left, it all just fell on him. It all fell apart. And Trump is at that point where he's had a trine. But I mean, the year has been pretty turbulent. I mean, is this a winning year for Trump? I don't know. No, not at all. So, I mean, it's just like someone who's hanging on and, the minute the protection leaves, then he's got to deal with the actual stuff, which is there, it's there. I mean, yeah, I'm amazed that people say, oh, he'll get away with it.
He won't.
You don't want the feds looking into your stuff. That's not a cool thing. Grand juries and feds and not a good plan. They have jobs. They also are motivated to win cases,
Exactly. Exactly. So did you get anything on Don Jr.? I don't remember you reading on him.
He's part of it. It's not, yeah, he's got problems, definitely. His chart, yeah.
I've often felt like it was pretty bad for him too.
He's got problems. It's not clear at all. Ivanka has problems. You see these things, you see them mirrored in the chart. Probably Trump the worst. I mean, Trump's is actually at risk of health catastrophe any moment. I mean, the man, I don't know if you see that, but.
Well, I had to dream that he was in a coffin, a glass coffin.
All I can tell you is, when you study astrology, you study patterns and repetitions, right? You keep seeing certain things. The stuff he has, someone came to me, I'd say, you should be careful, have you looked at your health? I mean, could you change your diet? Like, if there's something you could do,
right.
Not gonna change anything. Trump is all ahead flank,
He did lose some weight though. That's because he's not living off the fat of the land.
I guess, but he's, he's constantly irritated. He's constantly angry.
Yeah.
And
can you believe he sued to get back on Twitter?
Well, yeah, but I mean, those suits, though, I mean, how do you sue a company? Companies can do whatever they like. You can't have it both ways. You can't say you're in a capitalist system and then force a company. Why? I mean, they can just say, no, you broke our rules.
Well, the thing is, what do you think about that lawsuit that they put a stay on giving vaccines to companies over 100 people? Some judge just put a stay on it. Well, apparently in the 1906 or something, there was the smallpox vaccine, and that went to the Supreme Court. I guess some people didn't like being told what to do, and they lost because OSHA, it's for the safety of people. And they said, well, no, the government says everybody has to have this vaccine. Right now, the Supreme Court is throwing out anybody that comes in, those nurses from Maine, some from California, some from Texas. They all went to the Supreme Court saying they're firing me because I didn't get vaccine. Well, they can do that. That's what they said. That's what the Supreme Court said.
Right. So then why would they change? You think they will? You think they'll come up with, I mean, it's kind of it defies common sense though, because people already they send their kids to school. There are multiple vaccines that are required.
Right.
So before it was, well, we don't want to take these vaccines because they're not FDA approved. Now they're FDA approved. They say, well, it's still too soon. Which is it? How does this work? By the way, the other thing is, again, there's no way to say anything 100%. So I could be completely wrong about this, but most of the time when you put something in your body, You can tell more or less. Like I've had 2 shot. I had my booster shot, my third one, right? Recently.
Mhm.
Yeah, I felt about a day of a bit headachy, low energy, but then it just
Which
passed.
one, Moderna or Pfizer?
Pfizer, right?
Okay.
And then it just passed.
Right.
And what are you telling me now? You're telling me that what, there are gremlins running around behind the
Oh,
scenes? I
you'll
don't know
be
about.
sterile. You'll be sterile.
Well, where's the proof of that? Again, it's like, oh, who said that? I saw it on Facebook. It's insane. I mean,
know.
and the problem is, I do agree. There's a problem here in that you need discernment, because people will say, well, this is all pharma, confusing us. And pharma can be extremely crooked. For example, they market drugs I don't believe they should be marketing. A. B. Remember the scandal with opiates? That's pretty bad. They
That's
ran
bad.
that down the throats of people and addicted people. It's horrible, right?
Right.
So then you ask him, and then your conclusion would be, well, then this must be like that too. That's not what I discern from looking at the numbers. Once you start saying, oh, no, they're going to be telling you that 90%, 95% efficiency with vaccines, and that's a lie too. And I mean, we're living in like a complete lie. I'm not buying that. To me, the numbers say the vaccines are the most effective way to do this, right?
Right.
Even if some people say, well, I take horse medicine because it's 80% effective. Okay, that's fine, but that's not a good plan.
Did
for
you look
everybody.
at that quarterback at all? You're probably not interested in football in America. The
No,
one
I
that
did.
lied,
Sorry, why he
the one
lied?
that lied and said he was vaccinated and he's not.
Yeah, I just did the video on him yesterday.
Oh, you did? Can
Yeah,
you give
yeah.
us a little bleep? What did you say?
Yeah, no, I basically said that you can see, and this is where astrology is can be so clever or so interesting, because you see the hit on his health planet, which is why it happened. You also see that he doesn't have the chart for it to kill him, or it. But really, what the chart is showing is the hit on his reputation, because
That's it.
what he did is he said, well, I'm going to do this my way. And apparently he was even going around Wisconsin saying, oh, these people, these woke people, that offends me, because what, you're calling me woke because I believe in the science of this? There's
Right.
nothing woke about this. It's just vaccines, like polio vaccines, for crying out loud, right?
Right.
So then, but he's sitting there in the huddle, like, Stephen Colbert, the comic, turned it into a big laugh when he said, he's doing the huddle and he's saying, well, and he goes, I'm going to breathe on you, right? So you can make people sick, right? And
I know.
the thing about this, what really burns me is the NFL, because they'll play it both ways. They don't want to really punish the guy because he's their star quarterback, when really they should be saying, hey, you're suspended for the season or for half the season for
Right.
doing something like
Oh,
this.
in the meantime, Colin Kaepernick does a knee and he's gone.
Exactly. So, I mean, there is a double standard, but he doesn't look very good at the moment. And you see that in his chart, because the two big square in the sky, we have a Pluto Eris square and a Saturn Uranus square. Both those locked into his chart, right? Now, an astrologer would have told him, hey, you should be careful just in case, right?
Right.
Something goes wrong with your strategy. But he wasn't careful. So then it blew up in his
And
face.
he basically lied. He led people to believe he was vaccinated.
Right. Well,
And he's got sponsors pulling out as we speak.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's gonna hurt, but I doubt that it'll hurt a ton.
Well,
unless-
they're investigating the team now.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a problem. I mean, he's gonna have to deal with it. My sense, though, is that probably when you look at his chart, it's got all these Sagittarius planets. That sign and where they are, it's in 23. He's already getting into his 30s, right?
Yeah.
In 23, in the spring of 23, that season is harder for him, and 24 too, because of where all those planets are.
Okay.
Prior to that, I think it's just, yeah, it's going to be a bummer, like end of season and whatever, and he's going to be embarrassed and so on. But I would be really surprised if, something really bad happened. Like if they said, you're suspended for the entire season. The NFL.
Well, no, they won't get rid of him.
No, I mean, it's definitely,
But somebody like Colin Kaepernick. I never saw Colin coming back into football. I don't know why. He's done a lot of good work outside of football.
Yeah, which is in a way, it's probably better, because football, I kind of alluded to that in the video. It's a brutal game. I mean,
It's
doing that you have to really be, it's funny with Rodgers. I said, well, he's got a pretty good chart. He'll probably get through unscathed. But I thought, who gets through unscathed doing this? I used to follow football in the 70s, and a lot of those people now are cripples. These guys
I know, with brain injuries.
or they say I can't even get out of bed in the morning because my knee, it's just wrecked, and because you take a tremendous pounding.
Oh, yeah.
It's
It
really
it
rough.
comes back to haunt you.
Yeah, exactly.
So you were talking about when you read charts, you can, something you work with as far as,
Yeah. So when I read charts, there is the matter of where the cycles are.
right,
You can see it. You can see what area the person is dealing with, the kinds of energies that are coming up. But I focus on the empowerment side. I focus on what I know gets planets to work better for you. Because if you do that, if you make those connections through your own, let's call it self-work. So let's call
right,
it broadly that. Then the chart starts to function better and your fate changes. Fate is not rigid that way. This is the thing. People think it's written in stone.
right.
It's somewhat written in stone, but it's not completely written in stone. Otherwise, if you said, yeah, it is, then I mean we can get into circular arguments, but usually people will say, well, I started to do this, this, and this, and then this happened. My business improved. I mean, who suddenly snap your fingers? Like if you say to someone, hey, I see, look, this is pretty good. Your career is looking pretty good. Okay, I'm just going to sit on the couch now and wait for it to happen. That's not how it works.
Yeah, exactly.
It's supposed to be, it gives you a timeline that says, okay, you've got this long to work on this. That's the expectation. There's a period and then you work it and then something happens, right? So similarly, when it comes to self-work, if you put in the time, then your energy changes. This is what people call the vibe. How some people will say your aura, your magnetic field, what you attract, that whole thing about the secret, right?
Right.
That the secret is true if you do the work, right? But if you dabble in it, do a little bit, read about it only, a little bit, but it's not going to be the same as if you actually work on it.
Right.
So, and it turns out in astrology, the people whose charts I've done will, if they're watching this, they'll know, because I said it. It's the thing about the chart is the key point to focus on is the sun. Why is that? Because astrology is, after all, linked to astronomy, right? We do the solar system.
Right.
And if you look at the astronomy of the solar system, the sun is overwhelmingly more powerful than the other planets. It's ridiculously, I mean, I like to explain it as if you say, okay, all the mass, all the stuff, you're going to put it on a scale. So then you say, let's call it, for argument's sake, we'll say it's worth $100, right? The whole thing. Turns out the sun is worth $99.86, right? Which means 14 cents for all of the rest. And then it gets even more interesting. Jupiter is 10 cents and Saturn is 3 cents. So you have 1 penny left for all the rest. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Moon, but all that stuff, all of it, right? So here's the key, right? That the sun is the most important planet. So then if you study the sun and you read astrology meanings, you go online and put astrology sun, it'll say things like the sun is your core vitality. The sun is your purpose. The sun is your strength of will. So think about it. That's what you should be working on, right? As an example for vitality and energy. If you have vitality and energy, things tend to go well. If you don't, things tend to not go well. And I don't just mean like, okay, you've got vitality and energy and you can get things done. That's part of it. The other part of it is that you literally attract better things. There's a kind of magnetic pull that happens as a result of vitality and energy. So working on that is super important. If you just say, well, I'm just going to wait till such and such a planet comes by, yeah, it'll give you something, but it'll give you in relationship to where you are in your energy, right? So then if you get Jupiter comes by and it's nice or whatever, yeah, it'll be a okay period, but it probably won't solve your bigger problems if you haven't yourself,
Right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I think you're tuned into this because didn't I notice that one of your addresses has energy in it? Remember that I looked at that and I thought she must be connected to energy in some way.
Who? One of my planets?
One of your email addresses has energy.
Oh, energy driven. Yeah.
Yeah, and well, there you go.
I don't know why I picked that up, but that's what I did. But normally I tend to be pretty lazy. I'm pretty laid back. But lately, all of a sudden, I got energy again.
Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of, this is where sometimes you can judge yourself too harshly. There are all kinds of angles, right? People
Right.
can create stories for themselves, but it's just the idea of knowing how things work, how planets work, and the kind of message they broadcast, and then what to do about it. Because then all of a sudden what happens is you have this chart that gets illuminated. It starts to function better. So wherever the sun is, in fact, there's a direct correlation between the sun getting energized and success in that part of the chart, whatever it is, right? Like in your
Okay.
case, more energy puts you in touch with spirit because your sun is in the spirit house, right?
Okay.
So it's,
Okay.
or well, it's also a health house. So clearly that's a pretty easy correlation, right?
Right.
By the way, your chart is getting better. Like you were this thing about chaotic energy. You've been in
Yeah.
this chaotic period, but it's just now lessening as you move toward the middle of the month, and there's a switch to Jupiter. So the second half of November is much better than the first half. I'm not alone, right? Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
This is the thing. You can do amazing self-study that way if you have the data in front of you, and you say, okay, look at this planet now, it's coming through. So you just notice what's happening in your life, and then you get an experience of, say, Jupiter, and then you get an experience of Saturn, and you can compare, and you'll pretty soon you'll realize, almost like in your bones, oh, I know that planet, I know what that's like, and you get better at dealing with it, right? Because
That's great. Yeah.
you'll remember from the previous time, oh, the last time I did that, but this time I'm going to try this because I know it'll work better. So that's where you bring self-awareness into astrology. But the whole idea is to make the chart work better so you get better results. As I
So the
understand.
full moon in Scorpio, who would that affect the most?
It affects the most. Okay, so the full moon, there are two things. One is Scorpio to Taurus, right? Because the way it works is the sun's in Scorpio in November, the moon has to be in Taurus to make a full moon, right? So, but then you look at the degrees. So the people that are late, that are born near like November 17, 18, 19,
Yeah.
they're the ones that get affected the most because that full moon is right on them, right?
Okay.
But what you don't know is that someone could have a planet there that you're not going to know just from saying you're born November, whatever. So that's where you look at the full chart. Or the other people are the people that are late in Leo and Aquarius, because it cuts across. And yours, that full moon is going to affect you because you have two planets late in the
Oh, Lord.
in Leo. No, but again, no, the whole idea is the full moon is like a really fast horse. You're going to get on a horse and it's
Right.
high energy. It can toss you off. But why does it toss you off? It's just your day-to-day management of your energy, right? If you're not on top of it, you can have a bit of a crash during that period. But it actually is very stimulating. So if it catches your planets, welcome it and work with it. Look at it that way, right? I mean, it's a
Well,
two-day
I'm
thing
all of a
anyway.
sudden I'm in the mood to like sort things out and get rid of things that are of no use, and I'm cutting down things, all my clutter.
Yeah, well, you know what that is too, though. You have, okay, so here's an interesting one. The same degrees that Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback, has
Yeah.
in Libra. Okay, so there's a planet in Libra. The Pluto is squaring it. You get sick, problems, whatever. For you, Pluto is at the moment squaring the ruler of your home domain. Pluto is the destroyer. Pluto says, I'm going to take this and take it apart and rebuild it. I'm going to throw things out. I'm going to make things really
That's what I'm
essential.
doing.
Exactly. So the thing is, it's just a dynamic, stimulating energy telling you, okay, you need to do this. And yeah, there'll be some issues, some problems. But overall, as long as your energy overall is harmonious, it's just a stimulant to get things done. In fact, if it were not there, you wouldn't do it. You would just be,
That's
oh,
true.
yeah, oh, like, okay, I'll start later. But now there's urgency, and
Now all of a sudden I'm just ready to do it.
right. And I mean, in part, you might say, well, the reason is because the electrician or some other thing, but that's not totally true. It's really true overall, even underneath in the subconscious. In fact, you could even say that psychologically, because that area, the fourth, see the house of the home is the most understated part of the zodiac. When astrologers talk about houses, they always talk, the 10th, the sexy houses. The fourth, though, we're always at home. It's so important. We spend so much time at home. And it turns out to also be the place where you come from psychologically. So that's another thing Pluto is probably working on with you, is somehow urging you to make changes in the way where you come from in some way. I don't know if does this connect with you at all? The idea of the psychological underpinning of things, which now, and the way to read that is your Saturn at birth is in Libra. So it has to do with personal harmony. Let's just say that.
Awesome.
Harmony and balance and all of that being reworked, changed, and brought to new levels, right?
To new levels,
to then use, in a better way, right?
Oh, shush, Jack. Hey, I got to tell you something that just came across the news. So the January 6th committee has just subpoenaed Michael Flynn and John Eastman.
There you go. Well, I mean,
did you look at Michael Flynn too?
Not recently, but I remember when I looked, it has problems, as you would expect from, I mean, the man, some people, I almost think to myself, have you lost your mind? You're an ex.
He got off and then he's in there creating chaos again.
Yeah, well, and I mean, he's an ex-US general, trafficking with the Turks and with the Russians, and you think to yourself, man, I mean, this is patriotism. It's strange.
Yeah. And I do not see the executive privilege getting through. I do not see it at all.
No, I mean, the only thing you see in the pattern would be that if you think about it, what I'm not hearing clearly yet, maybe you've got some information on this, is that they're going to try to delay it, hoping they can get back the House and end the investigation. That's the problem. It's just that I don't think that ploy is going to work.
No.
But that's what they're trying to do, because they know this is the problem with our system. On the one hand, it's great to have rule of law, but there are too many lawyers and too many delays. So they're just going to keep appealing and comply. That's what Trump always does, right?
Right.
That's his thing.
Unless you go to the Supreme Court, but no, wait, didn't the Supreme Court say you can't hold on to your paperwork on your money, turn it in?
Well, the problem is that the Supreme Court, you have to go through all the other courts first. I mean,
right.
It's horrible. I mean,
but I think he went to the Supreme Court and they said you have to turn it in. Then he tried some other nonsense.
Yeah, they sort of sent it back. I mean, they do. It's like a labyrinth the way the legal system is. But the thing is, you can see that if, like, take Trump for example, if their ploy to get back the House doesn't work, then you're looking at 23. After that, and with Saturn coming in, then you're dead meat. Then you're basically in so much trouble. And a guy like Eastman, I mean, they're trying. Yeah, I think you're talking about the papers. You mean the archive papers, right? Where Eastman, right? Because if it becomes public at all, even if it just gets seen by the committee, they were writing. That's another thing. I mean, it's really smart criminals, right? We're going to rob a bank. Let's write it down. Great, let's turn the camera on so that we can make sure that
the other people they subpoenaed was former senior advisor Jason Miller. Angela McCollum, a national executive assistant to former President Trump, and Bernard Carrick, who participated in the meeting at the Willard Hotel. 6 people.
Yeah. I mean, I would expect that the way this thing went down, I would be amazed if there wasn't a lot of trouble for a whole lot of people. But, again, there's that election in the middle. Right. There's that election.
Right. Now, I had Mel on earlier and he said he felt somebody singing. Like somebody refused, one of the attorneys refused, and they might say, he claimed the 5th, and they might say, okay, tell you what, we won't hurt you. Give us the 411. And he may do it if he gets immunity.
You mean among the people that are
amongst all these people?
Yeah, but again, attorneys. I mean, throw the dice. What do you think the odds are? They're pretty good. You start.
I think it's good. I think
it's the way that the police always works. They round up 7 people and they start saying, "Hey, who's going to talk?" I mean, yeah. Someone there, it will likely, yes, I would say so. And okay. I mean, good Lord. I'm
so excited. Yeah, but it's not like you said. It's not right on top of us, but it's happening.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. That's the way.
So was there anything else you wanted to tell people of things you saw for the upcoming by the end of this month?
I think the main thing that I want to say is put behind the August, September, October period, that's a difficult period because you get multiple planetary stations. It's just the way it is. Now we're moving into a new zone. So relax about it and give it a
Okay.
little bit of time, especially as we go into the new year. You see, the other thing too is that the US is a Cancer country. So Jupiter likes in Pisces likes Cancer. That's another pickup. And there's also the fact that I remember doing videos on this a year ago, that where Saturn is circulating is connected to the health area, which is partly where we're still. I mean, COVID is still a reality. People are still wearing masks and so forth. So the new year has much better energy. So
Okay. Good.
enjoy your holidays and look forward to a better 20.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, my friend, it was wonderful talking. Now, how do people get a hold of you?
It's on my channel. If they go to the Astrology Alert channel in the About section, there's just go to About and it's there.
Okay, I'll post it on here too.
Mhm.
Thank
Sounds
you, my
good.
friend.
All right, that was fun.
That was fun. It went by fast though.
Yeah.
Thank you.
always does.
Bye, everybody.